Hi, my name is Emily Rain, and today I will be making a watercolor painting of Hagrid's house. Let's get into it. Okay, so really quick, I planned this drawing in my sketchbook first, so there's the little thumbnail, and now time to blow it up. Okay, so to start off, I am using watercolor pencils to sketch out my drawing. I just find that using watercolor pencils allows easier blending when I get to the finished watercolor painting. It just makes the sketch lines don't really show and blend out, whereas if I used a regular colored pencil, they might show underneath. It's almost like the sketch lines magically disappear. Ugh, that was terrible. But anyway, Harry Potter. I, like many people, grew up on Harry Potter, and I started reading the books in around 3rd or 4th grade, but I'm a part of the generation who had the movies coming out while they were getting into the series. So basically, my sister and I had seen, was it Prisoner of Azkaban? Yes, Prisoner of Azkaban on TV, and it was like the scene with Remus Lupin turning into a wolf. And my sister and I were just hooked on the TV at that point and watching Harry Potter. And my mom just kind of walks over to the bookshelf and goes, "It's time." And so she started reading the first book to us, and then my sister and I slowly picked up the rest of the series on our own. And I believe our grandma read a couple of chapters to us eventually. And I stopped reading Harry Potter in 5th grade. Now you're probably thinking, why on earth would she stop reading Harry Potter? Well, I had gotten through Goblet of Fire. I'd gotten through Goblet of Fire. And I realized that the series was coming to an end. So I, in a state of denial, decided to stop reading the books because I didn't want to face the bitter end of my favorite book series. So I did not finish reading the series until the summer before my freshman year of college, which was last summer, the summer of 2019, by the way. So I was avoiding spoilers for the last book, last movie, for about 6 or 7 years. I had to stop to do the math. So I avoided the books and avoided spoilers for 6 to 7 years. And I finished it last summer, and I'm still not over any of it. I'm still mourning the deaths of so many characters, and it's become very taxing to mourn the death of this many characters, because like when you've read a book series for that long, those characters essentially become your friends, and like a lot of the characters just died, and I'm not okay. Why did J.K. Rowling have to do anything ever? But anyway, back to the watercolor painting. I finally moved on to watercolor paints at this point in the process. And I'm just kind of mixing colors to create like the trees and the stones of the building, to create like texture and depth. But with this watercolor painting, I'm trying to get more of like a traditional watercolor look, because with watercolor paintings in the past for me, I tend to go very heavy on the paint to the point where it looks like it might be an acrylic painting. And that's not really the look you want to go for with watercolor all the time. Sometimes it is, but for me, I'm trying to get more of a traditional watercolor look. Also, throughout the process of this watercolor painting, I go back and forth between watercolor pencils and watercolors. The watercolor pencils mixed in with the watercolors allows me to get some finer detailing in there. Not too fine because it eventually washes away a bit, but I think I just used an eraser on watercolor. I'm not really sure what I did. I am not a professional, so my techniques are whatever works for me. I do not remember using an eraser for that. Oh, that's kind of funny. I used an eraser on watercolor. Anyway, where were we? Okay, yeah. Going back and forth between watercolors and watercolor pencil, and then Harry Potter and avoiding spoilers for 6 or 7 years. But yeah, Fred Weasley specifically, the Weasley twins were my favorite characters. Anyway. On a brighter note, for those of you who, like me, are not over Harry Potter whatsoever, have I got a book series for you. It's called Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and it has a second book called Wayward Son. So there's 2 books, and I swear it's like going back to Hogwarts, but minus J.K. Rowling. So like there's diverse characters, there's gay characters, there's so much diversity and like just good storytelling in this series, and it has all of the magic of Harry Potter in it. I cannot recommend this book series enough. So if you're still not over Harry Potter, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell is such a good place to go after that. This series is very similar to Harry Potter, however, it doesn't have the different houses that Harry Potter does, which, by the way, leave your Harry Potter Hogwarts house in the comments below. That's like the first thing I ask people when I get to know them, is like what their Hogwarts house is. Mine's Gryffindor, by the way, which is probably a fairly annoying answer, but it's Gryffindor. But my sister's a Hufflepuff. Anyway, back to the painting. So you can see that I'm going in with some colored pencils and blending those out and going back and forth to add the detail of the bricks on Hagrid's hut. And now I'm going in with different washes of green for the trees in the background. And with watercolor, it's really a lot of patience and layering, and watercolor is probably my favorite art medium of all time. Just, it's peaceful to paint with watercolor because you can just focus on like the brushwork and the way that the paint feels on the paper. This paper specifically is Bristol paper. I just grabbed a random sheet out of my desk drawer. I thought it was watercolor paper, but then I realized it was Bristol when I started a different watercolor project, and the paper bent differently, because you know how watercolor paper kind of buckles. But I found a way to flatten out watercolor paintings, and it's really pretty simple. If you just like look it up on YouTube, pretty much any of the results that pop up work. It's really simple and it doesn't mess up your watercolor painting. But now I'm just going in with washes for the foreground, and then I believe I go in with washes for the background as well. But with watercolor, it's really easy to get ahead of yourself and put in washes before things are completely dry, which is what I found myself doing a little bit of here, but it doesn't end up too bad. But with watercolor, it's really a practice of patience and dedication for an artist. And honestly, it's a little bit of mindfulness as well. Here I'm going in with some orange for the pumpkins. I really like the little pop of orange in the corner because it kind of draws the eye to it, because it's just a different color from the majority of the painting, but it still like ties into the brownish, orangish, reddish of the cabin doors and roof. And now I'm getting to the point in the watercolor painting where I just have to go in and add more details and darken some colors up, because like I said before, you want to start a watercolor painting off with lighter colors and slowly get dark, or at least that's what I do. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but that's what I find works best for me. And with art, it's really just about finding whatever works best for you. So here I'm going in with some darker greens on the trees in the background to try and separate them out a bit. I feel like this part is what makes the trees in the background really stand out and allows you to separate them as trees. And I'm really proud of how the background trees turned out, because there's a lot of pine trees where I live, so I feel like drawing pine trees should come easy to me, and I'm just really happy with how these turned out. Because the way that I use the darker color to add like just some faint detail on it, like they're not super detailed trees, but it's enough to where you can tell those are pine trees. Also, a good tip for watercolor paintings, have some paper towels nearby. It's good for cleaning up quick little mistakes, because if you can get to it fast enough when you put the watercolor down, you can clean up your mistakes and go over it and fix it right up. Not that there's mistakes in art, I mean, they're called happy accidents. That's what I meant to say. But if you really want to clean up something you don't like with your watercolor painting, paper towels. That's the way to go. And with the reference I was using, the trees like slowly get darker as they go back, but then the mountains in the background get brighter as they get further back. So it was a little bit of some weird shading, I guess? Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure. And now I preemptively jumped into the background. So there was a little bit of bleeding from one watercolor to the next, but not too bad. And with the mountains in the background, I just kept it simple and used like different washes to bleed around a bit and add that detail to make it look more like a mountain. And now I'm getting around to finishing up the whole painting. So I'm just going in with some last minute details, darkening a couple little things up, and just cleaning up whatever needs to be cleaned up. But I saved all of the darkening and the darker colors for last. Adding some more shading on the tower in the back, a little more on the house, and we'll see how long it takes me to add a wash of color in the background for the sky. Now I'm going in with some more detail in the foreground, adding in some darker shades and some shading around the pumpkins and the house, and also going in with a little more watercolor pencil eventually too. And now I'm going in with some darker mountains in the background and adding some more detail to the hills. And a light wash for the sky in the background. finishing up with some detail with the pencils. And with that, I should be just about done with the painting. Some last minute touch-ups. And with all your artwork, you should always sign your name on it. And the most satisfying part of any paint project is ripping off the tape. And here is our final product. Thank you guys for watching, and hope you all have a wonderful rainy day. Bye guys!